Good morning, everyone. How are you doing today? It's Saturday, right about 8 o'clock a.m. Pacific, and we are doing our third week in a row of questions and answers for you. Again, this show is 100% created by your questions. It is my way of saying thank you for being subscribers of the channel, one rental at a time. We get to this Saturday session because of 100 thumbs up on the daily financial news. Yes, 7 days a week, right around 7:30 in the morning. I do a daily show, and I've shared that if we get 100 thumbs up on all 7 episodes, I will do this hour for you. So I have two lists of questions. No problem. Good morning, everyone. How are you? 2 pages of questions. Yes, I'm a paper person. I'm old. So that's what I got for you. So do me a favor. This will probably run about an hour. Let's see if we can't get this show up to 200 thumbs up. So far we're at 0. So let's fix that. Oh, there we go. We got one. Let's see if we can get to 200. I have no idea if we can, but it's a fun goal in a roll. So it's a fun goal to have. So let's try to get to 200 thumbs up. Again, smash that like button, as Graham Stephan likes to say. So yeah, this is my way of saying thank you to all of you for watching and being a part of these daily shows. So I'm going to just jump in. Again, 2 pages of questions. I will exhaust this list, and then if we have time, I'll take some additional questions. And if I don't have time for it, last week we ran out. We can always put questions down, and we'll shoot to do this again next Saturday. So first off, I got a question. There's a young YouTuber out there who very recently is starting to talk about mortgage forbearance again. He is talking about it. Basically, it's a good way to raise cash. So I thought, again, I got 2 questions on this young man's videos. I don't want to name them because I don't want to get into that. If I'm talking people up, I will name them. If I have feedback that I think could even be construed as slightly negative, I'm not going to name. I'm not here to tear people down. I want to build people up. I want to be a part of that movement. But in this case, I think it's bad advice. So basically, the advice is, hey, forbearance is out there. It's easy to get. You just have to check a box, and you can get some free months of mortgage payments and build your cash reserve. So a couple of things about forbearance. First, if you are impacted and you know if you're impacted, you should absolutely take it. 100%, no questions asked, take it. In this young man's video, he is talking about, hey, if you're employed and you still have your job, you're still getting paid, don't worry about it. You could still say you're impacted because heck, we're all impacted in some way or another. I don't that attitude frankly disgusts me. I don't know how else to say it. What I would tell you is if like I'm a landlord, right? It's no secret. I'm a landlord. And I'm in California. I'm a California landlord. So just imagine if my tenants had the same attitude, right? What I would tell this individual is, what if your tenants suddenly had that same attitude? Evictions are canceled. Don't have to worry about it. I'm just not going to pay rent. And that's that talking out of both sides of your mouth is unfortunate, right? What's good for the goose is good for the gander, or whatever that saying is. And I don't suggest that. Just because you're an owner, it gives you some different rights than your renters. If you want your renters to pay if they're employed, you should pay your mortgage if you're employed, right? I just thought that was I thought that was really bad advice. Frankly, could be construed as a character flaw. Again, let me say this. If you are impacted by this event and you've lost income, take it. It shouldn't even be a question. But if you are still employed and still moving along, and you just want to take it to build some cash reserves, not cool, in my opinion. Plus, the other thing that's very true, because I've been doing this for 20 years, unlike this young man, banks aren't really your friend, right? They like to put on the good front, like, oh, yeah, we'll take care of you, blah, blah, blah. They will find a way to make sure the next loan you need either gets a no answer or very expensive interest rate. By taking a forbearance when you don't need it, you are potentially making it harder to get your next loan. And if you are going to get higher interest rates. I've seen some questions come through on this live cast. I'm not going to read them. I have a whole list, but if you can take those questions and put them in the comment section of this video or any of the daily news, I will try to get to them, if I can't today, next week. All right, so that's my feeling about that. I thought that was distasteful, maybe is the right word for it. Next question is recommendation on my favorite books. I think I did very early on this channel my favorite books, but I realize I have over 2,000 videos now, and I produce 4 hours a week and multiple videos a day, so I get it. It's hard to find. So I thought about that. There's really a couple, right? One is, besides my book, obviously, there's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which everybody recommends. I actually like Gary Keller's, I think it's called Millionaire Investor. It's blue and white. It's about this thick. Gary Keller's his name, Keller, I think. It's blue and white. I really like that book, really, for the last 50 pages. He actually talks about different investors and their story and what they do and all of that. I have read those 50 pages. It might be 40, whatever it is. I think I've read those stories 20 times. I think I've read the book 2 or 3 times, but those last stories, I've read those quite a bit. So I like Gary Keller. When I was getting started, there was a gentleman that goes by the moniker Fixer J. I think his name's Jay DeSima. He kind of wears overalls and all of that. He talked about multiple houses on one lot. He talked about fixer-uppers, hence his name, Fixer J. He talked about owner financing a lot. So he opened my eyes to other types of rental properties that I hadn't thought about. He has a couple. He has 3 or 4 books. They're all really the same. But I like Fixer J as well. And then books, just because I think there's things outside of real estate that are more mindset. There's a book called Can't Hurt Me that I thought was a good read. First off, the struggle is real. This David Goggin, he had a rough childhood. Some of that stuff was hard to read, but more importantly, most of the book is just about mental mindset and mental toughness. And then I'm reaching for another. Sorry, Extreme Ownership. I thought was a really good read. I was lucky enough to actually get autographed. How cool is that? Yeah, this was a good read. This is about taking ownership, putting it on yourself. Stop blaming others. In today's environment, this is a book I highly recommend. Where did I take this from? I'll just leave it there. So those are my favorite books. Couple 3 on real estate, and then other mindset books. Next, first-time investor wants to tap equity in their primary residence and use that equity to buy investment property. I get flavors of this question a lot. And my answers are typically very different than most real estate investors, right? Or most coaches, or whatever you want to call us. Most of them are like, go for it, go for it, take the risk, maximum leverage, all of those things. And that makes me wildly uncomfortable. I believe your primary residence needs to be protected at all costs. It's where you and your significant other are. It's where you want to raise your kids. I think it is very foolish to ladder up debt on your primary residence, even if you're going to invest in rental properties. I'm not a huge fan of that. Now, saying that, I don't know your situation. Maybe you owe 40%, right? Your house is worth 200 and you owe 50 grand. Well, then you're safe, right? Maybe you ladder up to 50% LTV, something of that nature. But some of you like, your house is worth 200, you owe 150, and you're like, oh, can I go get that last 25? No, you're too close to the edge. Go learn your market, do the work, find a good deal, joint venture, do something else. I am I'm not a fan. Again, if you've heard my story growing up, the one thing that kept us in our home was the fact that we had equity and we were able to use it in emergencies. And if you use that equity to buy an investment and an emergency happens, ouch. Um, that is dangerous. So again, not a big fan of that. But if you can use the equity in your house, your home, and then pay it back in less than a year, guaranteed, right? Maybe you have options or RSUs that are out quarter after quarter, or you're waiting for the sale of this or that. Then I say go for it, right? If you have a defined way to pay back your equity line on your primary within a year, I would definitely use that going forward. So, um, yeah, that's what I would do. Okay, cash reserves. Oh, I already talked about that. What role do neighbors play in rentals or primary residence? I thought this is an interesting question because, first and foremost, neighbors, especially as we're talking single family homes, they absolutely do make a difference. And that's one of the reasons why you, I, or trusted boots on the ground need to go drive properties you have in escrow. I no longer check out every property I write offers on, but every property that gets into escrow, we go see. Because there are reasons why houses sometimes don't sell that are neighbor driven. And if you don't go check that out and get a feel, you could be in for a bad situation. If you have a neighbor that runs a car shop, for example, out of their garage and has car parts everywhere, that could be a problem. If you get in a neighborhood and there's a house hack going on, for example, next door where there's 5 adults living in a 3 bedroom when parking is hard to do, that's a problem. There are lots of good deals that look good in Excel that aren't as good when you go see the house itself because of the neighbors. And that's where sometimes, Excel driven decisions break down. Because, yeah, you will have higher turnover. We have had a couple of houses where the neighbors are the problem, right? They party too much. There's too many adults. There's the car. I mean, the examples I'm giving you, I've lived through. So you need to do that, and that also impacts future value. If not future value, it will certainly impact the speed at which you sell. Right? If your neighbors has a junkyard in the back and people come looking to spend potentially hundreds of thousands of dollars, they probably don't want that in their back, as their neighbor. So just realize that yes, neighbors impact value, and neighbors can impact turnover without question. So that's why you got to have boots on the ground that you trust, or you need to go check it out yourself. All right, and remember, we're trying to get 200 thumbs up. I just wanted to take a pause. We're 14 minutes in, 26 people watching, and we only have 6 of these. What's up? Okay, never mind. Next question I got was from one of our daily financial news is, what does it mean when the Fed buys mortgage-backed securities? So essentially what that means is financial institutions have established, right, they're doing loans, right? You and I know that. And what happens is most banks don't keep the loans on their books. They make a whole bunch of loans and then they want to sell them, right? And then they make a margin and they make money on fees. They want to recycle the capital. Right now, the window to buy those mortgage-backed securities is what they're called. is pretty much dominated by the Fed. And the Fed, as crazy as it sounds, doesn't have a profit mandate. So what they can do by being the buyer is they can push interest rates lower. That's why we've gotten to 30 years for owner occupants under 3% and probably going lower because they're just buying all they can. They're being the big gorilla in the market and they're pushing out all the other players like Wall Street, right? Wall Street has to make a profit. The Fed doesn't. So if the Fed wants to buy all of them, they will. And that will feel good in the moment, but there will be unintended consequences eventually. It just, when you come in that big of a way and you dominate a system and you essentially you stop a system from working as normal and it breaks, it does. It feels good today, but it's going to feel bad tomorrow. And I don't mean tomorrow as in literally tomorrow, but tomorrow sometime in the future. There will be a price to pay, and it's going to be a doozy. And frankly, don't know what it is. That's the whole unintended consequences. So watch out. Next up, got a question about a sub 2 on a fourplex in Fresno, my market. So a follower said, "Hey, I live in Fresno. Somebody wants to sell me a sub 2 fourplex. Get these numbers." I thought these numbers were wild. So what does he want? The seller wants 450 grand for it. Right, that's the value. I have no idea. I don't have the address or anything. There's a loan balance of 170, which I thought was interesting. It means you probably bought it pretty cheap. The seller wants 150K cash. And then he wants to do sub 2 so he doesn't have any capital gains hit. So first off, there's actually two questions. First off, there is something wonky about this deal. This I could be missing variables, but I took it right from his comment or email. I don't remember which one this was. But if he only owes 170 and he wants 150 from you, something's off. That doesn't feel right to me. This doesn't feel like a legit deal to me, frankly. I would be very nervous about this deal just on the face value. Second, you asked me, can I refi out and carry it in my name? Well, if you refi out, you're cashing in the original owner, and he'll have to pay capital gains. So if you refi, you're not the current owner or your friend, as you say, which I don't think he's a friend if those are the deals. Those numbers don't make sense to me. That's a hell of a lot of cash to put into a sub 2 deal. Sub 2 deals do not typically take a lot of cash. That's a lot of cash. And again, if you want to refi out to get it in your name, that sort of defeats the purpose of a sub. I wouldn't do this deal. It just feels all kinds of wrong. I think, frankly, your friend is trying to sell you something that is hurting him every month, and he's trying to get out of a bad situation by taking advantage of you. Again, I have no details other than, what is that, 25 words on a piece of paper, but my spidey senses say, bad deal, bad deal. Okay, well, that's what you get. Next up, I got a couple of questions about a real estate guru. I've been on a couple of podcasts, and my channel has grown because I'm on them. I am not going to name this individual because he has proven to be litigious. He has proven to file lawsuits for defamation. So I am not naming this individual. But let's just say when you are looking to buy turnkey properties out of state, you need to do your research. There are providers of those solutions who have horrible reputations that actually have lawsuits filed against them. And just because someone is on YouTube and has thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of followers, doesn't make them a good person. Do your research. Again, I am not naming the name because I don't want to get sued. So that will be interesting. I just got a text about April Crossley or a comment or whatever. I've actually interviewed April 3 or 4 times. I've been on her channel a few times. I think April's a good egg, if you will. This is not about April by any stretch. It is somebody else. Again, I'm not naming because I don't want to get sued. Next up, 30-year is a 30-year loan good for someone in her 50s or in your 50s? So this is the crux of the question as I put this together. Is hey, I'm in my mid 50s. Let's just say 55. If I take out a 30-year loan, I'll be 85 when it's paid off. What the hell? Why would you recommend that? Shouldn't I just pay cash if I am looking for cash flow? So again, no one size fits all answer in real estate. You have to know your situation. Again, what do I have this time? 15 words. So it's hard for me to give specific advice. But I've had many people in their 50s talk to me. And it always comes down to how much cash flow and when are you looking for it, right? A lot of the people that I speak with are in high-tech jobs. They're frankly in the highest earnings part of their career, right? They're in executive positions. And when I ask them, how long can you work? Most of them say 10 years. They can see 10 more years. So if your future is 10 more years of work, would I recommend a 30-year mortgage? Probably not. I would recommend a 15-year mortgage. But remember, I talk about alligators. So if I'm talking to this senior executive who's 55, who wants to work 10 more years, I'm going to recommend a 15-year mortgage, and I'm going to recommend 40% down. 40%, because I need that place to cash flow. Cash flow is important. I don't want this executive ever having to dip in their pocket to pay the mortgage. That defeats the purpose. Just because you can doesn't mean you should, right? Because who knows, 3 years from now, your industry could get disrupted and you're kicked out and it's hard to get a job again, right? It could happen. So don't put yourself in that situation. The other thing I get in this question is, do you recommend buying for cash? Again, I don't know what market you're in, right? Maybe your market's full of 30 or 40K houses and it's hard to get loans. Well, yeah, okay, I could see doing cash for deals. It's hard to say. But in general, again, in general, I don't know anything about this situation. I would say if you're in the beginning, even if you're 55, get leverage, because I see the next 10 years being very good for single family homes. So the bigger foundation, meaning more properties you own, inflation is going to help you. And when you get to that 10-year mark, sell one, pay off the others, and you've achieved a bigger foundation. Again, that's what I would recommend. So even if you have to put 40% down with 15-year mortgage, you can get twice as many, actually almost 2.5 as many properties. So that's what I would recommend. Again, your specific situation could be very different than mine. I don't know, but that's what we're doing. Got a question about multifamily, right? Is now the time to start submitting lowball offers on multifamily? First off, don't know what you mean by lowball offers, but in general, I think multifamily. So again, multifamily in this speak is 5 units and above, not residential, 5 and above. There's going to be tons of pain coming. We've already seen a couple of syndications blow up and start to sell. But I would say it is a long time. I think it's at least a year away before multis go on sale. It's not been long enough. There's been no price discovery. There's been no time for foreclosures. There's been no time for capital calls. We're all in a rush for a deal. Today's market with such low supply, I got to keep telling you, just learn your market. Don't be in a rush for a deal. You don't even know what a deal is yet, right? So go spend time looking in your market. Take my free 75-day challenge. There's a playlist on this that tells you to do 8 things. Right, if you have no money, do that. If you need help learning your market and you got $200, take my course. People love it. It creates focus and energy and how to do the math and all of those things. So again, understand your market is the number one thing in this. So Be careful. Oh, here's one. When does the city reassess for taxes? So again, I only can speak about my experience. I believe every state and perhaps even municipalities are different. So in my market, properties are reassessed at purchase or sale, right? That's because that purchase price is part of property taxes. And then in my market, what I have seen with my stuff to date only gets reassessed if I'm going and getting permits and plans to increase the footprint of the property. That is one of the reasons, in general, there are exceptions. I do not change the footprint. I do all my remodeling inside and paint and change windows. To date, knock on wood, that has not caused any tax reassessments. It could change going forward. California has a huge hole in our budget. I expect property taxes to be one thing they go after, so this could change. But as of today's recording, that has been my experience with reassessments. All right, that's page one. 26 minutes, not bad, huh? Again, now we have 45 people watching and only 17 thumbs up. Come on, how long does it take to hit a thumbs up? I'm doing this for an hour for you. Hit that little, smash that like button, as Graham Stephan says. Next, career advice for someone in tech sales. If you don't know my experience, I spent 20 years in sales positions, from pre-sales engineers to direct sales reps to mid-level management, and finally the last couple of years, second line, they called it second line management. So what I would tell you in tech sales is, let's be clear, I was in tech sales through 3 or 4 different recessions. So I've seen it swell in ranks and collapse and all of that. I've seen technology change. We went from perpetual to monthly. It's a highly lucrative but stressful job. For me, I realized in my mid-30s I couldn't do it forever. I mean, it's literally a job where you could be fired any day. It's a cruel mistress, if you will. And so what I would tell you in being in tech sales is, A, you need to live on your base. Let's just use round numbers. Let's say your OTE is what they call it, on target earnings. It's what all these salespeople advertise. Hey, come make 200K. But what they don't tell you is 50% of that is at risk and 50% is your base. So what they're really telling you is, hey, come make 100 grand. And oh, by the way, if you're any good, we'll pay you the extra 100. And again, these are just numbers for easy math. I'm not saying these are the numbers, but whatever. But what I would tell you to do in tech sales is live on your base first. So in that early example, learn to live on 100. That changed our life when we could live on our base. Because if you have to live on your commission, I don't know about you, but that freaking killed me. I mean, it's just so stressful. Anytime you have to make a sale, bad things happen. Murphy's Law kicks you in the teeth. All of these other things happen. So I would say get comfortable living on your base. Second, you happen to be in a particular job that can be highly rewarding, right? I have known sales reps, front line, first line, make 7 figures. 7 figures, right? When you crush it as a tech salesperson, you can make ungodly money. So what I would tell you to do during the day is bust your ass. Be the very best. Make an extra 10 phone calls every day. Because what you should be doing in tech sales is you should be saying, I am going to bust my ass for a decade. I am going to be the best of the best. I'm going to make club. I'm going to make my OTE by the summer. I am going to go ham on this. And then you should take all that money and invest it. This is how you get to financial freedom. Any commission-based sales job where you have the ability to hit what's called accelerators can change your financial future. You need to bust your ass 9 to 5 or 9 to 9 or whatever it is, do extra calls, take extra accounts, and go for it. But what you need is a goal, right? Because you can't do that. You can't do the job for very long. It's very unhealthy. And then the last thing is tech sales jobs are generally pretty easy to get if you're good. So at some point, your sales patch is going to get so low that it's impossible to make accelerators, right? This is the whole, do I stay at a big company or go to a medium one, right? All of that. So the answer is at some point you got to go. When all of your peers are average, is what happens at big accounts, it's time to go to a different pond and start over. It just is as a sales professional. And that could be scary, right? Leave the comfort of a job where you can make your OTE, but have no chance of growth, or go somewhere small where you could do zero. Technology is not proven. Lots of things could happen. It's risky, but that's the career you sign up for if you're in tech sales. So that's hopefully that answers that question. Besides property values, what are things I look for in my market? So this question I think was really about how I always say, learn your market, learn your market, learn your market, right? Look at it every day. I'm not really looking at property values. Property values, I guess, comes to me from it. I am looking for what is selling, how fast it is selling. Are stuff getting discounted? Are they selling first day? I'm not, the price, yes, comes to me, but that's not the thing. I am trying to get the pulse of the market, right? Right. Where's the supply demand imbalance? How fast is stuff moving? Is it coming back? That's what I'm looking for. So to say that my number one thing is value is inaccurate. Why I look at my market every day still, and what I teach folks is what I do, is because I'm trying to see what's going on. If you want proof of what I'm telling you, go back and watch my goal videos, which I do every Sunday morning. Go look at the one from what is it, like May 1st or whatever time that is. I was writing 10 to 15 offers a week out of the multiple listing service. And you can see it. I go back and watch the videos. It's all there. And then like 2 weeks ago, I changed because I'm watching the market. The freaking market is nuts. There's no supply. There's a gazillion demands. Stuff is getting bid up. I'm not going to play in that market. That's why I still watch every day. So again, I'm trying to figure out where the market is going, where the consumer is doing. They can overpay. There was a 119 or 199 house that I could pay 170. It got bid up to 220. I can't play in that market. I'm not going to do a bad deal, right? Your job is to understand what average is and then only do good and great deals. And sometimes the market's not there. I'm sorry. This market that is so artificially constrained, not a great time. But use this time to learn your market. If you learn a market that is highly volatile today, man, you're going to be dangerous, into this year or next year, because it will not, I promise you, it won't be this way forever. One of two things are going to happen. If supply stays this low and demand is here, prices are going to shoot up. More people will list because they have equity. It'll happen. Now that may take 6 or 8 quarters, but it could happen. Or demand is going to come down because the disconnect and the pent up and all of that stuff is coming. And yes, don't forget we have 2 markets, jumbo and below jumbo. All of my talk is below jumbo. I don't make rentals above the jumbo load limit. So thank you for that. Oh, here's a question. How low do you think high-end prices will fall? So high-end that's an arbitrary number. What's high-end in Cleveland is not high-end in Beverly Hills, for example. So when we say high-end here, let's think jumbo loan limit, right? Which I think is 508 in the most expensive cities, and it ranges where you are. So let's just say 500 for this argument. Actually, let's also divide this up. So I think there's a couple of cities that are unaffordable. New York, San Francisco, LA, Orange County, for example. I think those cities not only have unaffordability problems, but they are also less desirable in our current environment. The rich are leaving, right? They're taking their chips and going to the suburbs. So I think those cities could see double-digit fall in value this year. New York, San Francisco, for example. Again, I don't think that happens in most markets. I think most markets values go up, but people keep wanting to hear it. So San Francisco, New York, prices are going to go down. Values are going to go down. The supply demand imbalance there is opposite of every other market, right? So I think those cities have a problem. I think jumbo loans in general are harder to get today. There's not as many lenders. So um, I think the jumbo markets are going to, even in a hot market like Fresno, California, I think the high end could see a 5 to 8% fall in values. Because again, I look every day. We've had brokers on this show. The jumbo market, the inventory is increasing. Demand is waning. Below the below jumbo, flying off the shelf. Prices are going to go up. So again, watch your market. So I hope I answered that question. Yeah, 5% price cut in $1 million homes. Exactly, it's going to happen. Jumbo, it's not a good place to be. Here's a question I get seemingly every week, certainly every month. How do I get my spouse on board? I don't know what it is. I'm very lucky. I fully admit that. Olivia and we're always on the same page on this, so I truly appreciate that fact. But I do get this question a lot. How do I get my spouse on board? Right. First and foremost, you have to understand what's the hang up. And I've seen a couple. One is the spouse wants to get a primary residence first, right? Perhaps you're renters, you want to go out and build your real estate portfolio, but he or she is like, no, I want a home first. Okay, listen to that. Go figure that out. Getting an owner-occupied house first, if you're going to live in it for a while, you can get it. You can get in for very little down. So listen to that. Second, we happen to have exited the most horrific real estate recession or depression, frankly, just 10 short years ago. And some people's families were crushed by that. So figure out if your significant other has firsthand or secondhand experience with that. You need to listen to that. If you were in the real estate market from '06 to 2010, you need to realize that hurt a lot of people. So listen, ask questions. Don't be obstinate and just push. Shut up and listen. Figure it out. And then lastly, most importantly, what I would tell you to do is you need to spend 75 days, like the hard challenge says, or 90, learning your market. What I have seen be the best thing is if you can take your significant other to a property and show them why it's a good or great deal. Hey, honey, I've looked at 347 homes over the last 90 days. Here's the tier. Here's average. Here's bad. Here's good. And oh, by the way, here's great. And oh, by the way, 123 Main Street, which we're standing in front of, falls right here. If you can prove and show effort, consistency, understanding, it is amazing how quickly the conversation changes. If you can show that you have done the work and the effort consistently for days, and you're not just, hey, let's do real estate investing. Hey, let's own a McDonald's. Hey, let's own a car wash. You're just bouncing around chasing fads. It's amazing how the conversation changes. So A, if you've done the whole owner-occupant discussion, B, you've appreciated where they're coming from and maybe any history that you don't know of, you need to do the work. Nothing makes it an easier conversation than showing you understand how to make money. And if you can show the work, 300 and whatever I said, 47 homes, and this one's in the top 10, I bet the conversation gets very, very different. So that's what I recommend, is do the work, show the work, learn your market. And if you need to do something free, take the 75-day hard challenge, which is on this channel. There's a whole playlist dedicated to it. And if you need help learning your market, there's a link in the description below. So that's how to get your spouse on board. All right, six more questions. Six more questions. Is now the time to buy my first rental property? I don't know. I don't know your market. I don't know. But in general, I would say this is a tough market to be a first time real estate investor. Again, I can't say that as a blanket statement, but in general, if your market is like mine, where supply is here and demand is here, unless you can get off market deals, it is very tough to be a real estate investor today. Most of you should not be writing offers today because you're going to overpay. You're going to get caught up in the momentum. You're going to take a good deal and make it an average or bad deal by overpaying. Now, I realize that's a blanket statement and it's very dangerous. But folks, what you need to be doing in a market today that is abnormal. I've been doing this 20 years and this is the most abnormal market. You need to do your homework. I would tell you to do your homework between now and the election, just because it's a date in the future. Don't be in a rush. Just because you have cash in the bank and you feel like you're missing an opportunity, I'm right there with you. I have cash in the bank and I'm not doing deals today. It's hard. When people will take a 200 house and pay 220 when you have to pay 170, that's a 50K difference. How? Why? Don't chase. Read my book. I sold my houses in a hot market because they were unaffordable and they're still not back there. We could be going back to that nutty environment. It could. I don't know. We're certainly trending that direction. So in the end, again, it's hard to say this across the country or frankly across the world. Today is the day to learn your market. The market is highly volatile, which means it's a perfect time to learn. In general, I do not think buying your first real estate investment when you've only done a couple of days of research is a good idea. Now, there are exceptions. You can find unicorns. Yes, there are rainbows. Yes, I've done 2 deals in the last 12 days. I get it. But in general, it's time to do your homework, my opinion. Kind of a same question is, if everything sells so fast, what am I supposed to do? I understand. Nobody said this was going to be easy. Your job as an investor is only to say yes to good or great deals. If the market has no good or great deals, sit on your ass. Keep watching. It will change, I promise. Read my book. It goes up, it comes down. It goes up, it comes down. Real estate is cyclical. Consumers are fickle. This entire channel, my entire 20 years of reading the financial news, is mainly to figure out what's going on with the consumer. Today, because of a pandemic that hasn't happened in 100 years, we have 2 months of stay at home and people are rushing out to buy because they have cabin fever. I promise you that won't last. It's okay. I'm guessing supply is going to increase, but I could be wrong. Who knows? Watch your market. Learn your market. If you want to feel like you're doing something, buy the freaking $200 course and go do the 75-day challenge and feel like you're learning your market. It's that simple. You do not have to write offers. Frankly, again, I go back to the same example. I'm ecstatic for the family that bought the 199 house for 220. I hope they live there forever, but it's not a good rental for me at that price. I can only pay 170 and I'm okay. Owner occupants can get in for 3.5%. Okay, 4 more questions. See if we can get through these in about an hour because I talk to my students here soon. This is an interesting one because again, I'm in California. Could eviction moratoriums run all year? Yeah, they could. What is going on with these evictions and can't do's and all of that is, I think, unconstitutional. I think it breaks contract law, which is a part of the U.S. Constitution. I don't think you can legislate good behavior, but they're trying. That's not how the system works. I think there are plenty of mom and pop landlords that are being crushed by this, because even if a mom and pop landlord can hold on their mortgage via forbearance, They still have maintenance. I mean, 40 to 50% of my expenses are maintenance, capital improvements, those kinds of things that don't go away. So yeah, I think, I mean, I don't know. I certainly hope not, but yeah, eviction moratoriums could go on all year. That is the nutty world we live in. And that's, again, that breaks the freaking US Constitution and contract law. It drives me crazy. I really hope some big landlords step up and start suing states and governors for that. It is intrusive, but I'm not big enough to file that lawsuit. So yeah, it could happen. And oh, by the way, if we lose the July $600 federal bonus for unemployment, it is going to get ugly for some landlords out there in some cities, right? Las Vegas, 30% unemployment. Man, watch out if that happens. So yeah, I mean, I don't know how else to answer it. I have no inside track. I think it's governors trying to legislate good behavior, which is bad, which you can't do. I think it's unconstitutional, but what do I know? So yeah, I could see eviction moratoriums running all year, as horrible as that sounds. Three more. What was the most surprising event of the week? So somebody watched my video Thursday night saying, "Ooh, be careful, Friday's going to be ugly." Friday was ugly. So somebody asked, "Hey, what was the thing that surprised you the most last week?" Again, I do daily financial news for you every day about 7:30, and for me, it was KB Homes. KB Homes' miss and horrible performance was very eye-opening and changed what I thought. Let me connect the dots for you. For 2 months, we were hearing new home sales surprise to the upside. But here's the rub with that statistics, and I've told you every time we talk about it. When they say new home sales, they're not talking closings. They're talking contract signs. So in, what is today, June? So in May, June. So in April, it surprised to the upside, right? They were expecting 20% decline. It went up 1%. Huge surprise. May was up, I forget, 18%, and they were expecting 6%. So 2 months in a row, new home sales were up. So KB Homes comes out and just whiffs. What you see inside their numbers is they have a 43% cancellation rate, because these new home numbers are contract signings. And what KB Homes told us is 43% of the people said no thanks. And KB Homes is entry level. If the entry level buyer is doing that, what do you think Toll Brothers is doing? Oh my God. So that was the biggest surprise. That was because that goes against the story of the reopening is working. People are excited. People are spending money. That's what I took from the new home sales. It's like, wow, man, you can't keep the American consumer down. And then KB Homes comes out and just goes, not true. 43% of the people said no thanks. So that was the biggest surprise for me. Oh, here's a good one. What is a good yield? Come on, folks. Learn your market. Every market is different. Frankly, every market and market cycle is different. Fresno yield in 2010 was 15%. Fresno yield today is 6. It changes all the time. Do your work. You shouldn't rely on me to tell you what a good yield is in your market. You need to go do the work. It's a daily exercise. It takes 15 to 20 minutes a day. You should tell me what a good yield is in your market. Not me, you, the other way around. I only know one market in any detail, and I'm not going to bother learning any other market. I promise you that. You have to do the work. And I don't know, can it be easy and hard at the same time? It's not hard to do. You just have to look every day, do the math like I teach you. And then over the course of 30, 45, 60 days, you're going to go, oh my God, I've looked at 200 properties and my market's 10%. Great. I don't know. I can't tell you, and I won't tell you what a good yield is. It's I'm some guy on YouTube that's never been in your market. Do the work, people. If you need help, look below. If not, just do the work. All right, last question. Thoughts on out-of-state investing? There's a can of worms that I stick my foot in my mouth all the time. Typically, I get this question from people that live on the coasts that are very expensive, like myself. I think out-of-state investing could both be wonderful and horribly risky. What I've come to believe is the most important thing for you to get if you're going to invest out of state is independent third party boots on the ground that you trust. And that trust is an interesting word. So I've actually gone one step further. I only consider you having quality boots on the ground if whoever is watching your portfolio shows up at your funeral. Is it a cousin? Is it an aunt, an uncle? Is it a best friend from college? Is that person likely to show up at your funeral? Are they going to get on a plane and come pay their respects when you pass on? If the answer is yes, congratulations, you have boots on the ground that I trust. But if you tell me, oh, I got a great real estate agent for this and that, and oh, by the way, I got a contractor for this and that, those people make money by having you spend money. And while they might be wonderful people today, I have seen many, many things that could change over time. Life happens. I had a contractor work with me on 13 or 14 properties in a row, on time, on budget, on quality, like the magic three. Suddenly life changed and thousands of dollars went missing and never found him again. This stuff happens, man. You got to be careful. So again, I get the urge to invest out of state. Two things. Paramount, quality boots on the ground that we've talked about. Second, don't believe Excel. Do the work. At a minimum, do the 75-day challenge in your market, because what will happen is you will meet 75 people in your market. I think it's step number 3 or 4. You'll read about your market for 40 hours. So you will know your market better. You got to trust yourself. Build confidence in yourself. So that's what I recommend, or what I think about out-of-state investing. So that's it. We did it again. So I wasn't able to get to any of the questions that came across. A lot of them were wonderful. Do me a favor. I'm going to close this now. Take your questions and either put them on a daily financial news or put them on this video. And again, if we get 100 thumbs up on the daily videos, I will do another session next Saturday. But let's try to get to 200. We have 49 people watching and only 32 thumbs up, and I just talked for like 55 minutes. Where's the love? All right, everybody. I'm going to get a drink of water and get ready to talk to my students. Have a wonderful day. Take care.